Excellent. Yeah,
Yeah.
there we are.
All right, we'll keep this nice and calm. All right, so hi everyone. It is 6 p.m. on Friday, January 29th already.
Yeah.
Welcome to Literacy in Action's last night of Family Literacy Week 2021. So tonight we're here with Heather and Yolanda and myself, Joanna, and we'll be sharing some stories in just a moment. Before we get started, we just wanted to let everybody know what Literacy in Action is and a little bit of why we've been doing Family Literacy Week.
Mhm.
So we are a volunteer-based, not-for-profit organization serving the Estrie region of Quebec's Eastern Townships. Our mission is to offer English-speaking learning opportunities by hosting literacy-related activities, training tutors and parents, and providing one-on-one support for adults who want to build on their reading, writing, computer, and overall life skills. All of our direct services and activities are free of charge.
Yeah.
So if you or somebody you know wants to practice or explore expanding their reading and writing skills, please do reach out to us. Tell a friend, we're here for that. So family literacy, we've discovered, is about having fun together and learning along the way. But one of the reasons that we've been wanting to do Family Literacy Week all of these years is to share with the community at large what we do in the community, and in terms of offering activities that bring literacy skills to life. One of our other goals is reaching adults. So we want you to know that though Family Literacy Week might seem like it's about kids, it's also about anyone, fathers, mothers, grandparents, aunts and uncles. It's about the family unit, whether it's a chosen family or blood related, because we all play a role in each other's lives and we support each other on our learning journeys. So I'm really excited today to have Heather and Yo with us, because we're gonna listen and share some stories. So as I mentioned, our special guest tonight is Heather Davis. Hi, Heather. Who teaches children's literature and will be publishing her first children's book through Hatley's Sugar Shack Press later this year. So after she shares some stories with us, we'll chat a little bit about storytelling and strategies. So if you have any questions or comments, please write them in the comment section. Give us a like so we know you're here. And you can always watch back later if you've got to put one of your little ones to bed. So, all right. So how's everybody feeling tonight?
Are you ready for a story?
Yeah. I suggest everyone get comfortable. If you've got tea or cocoa or whatnot, I got my cocoa here because I'm ready for some stories.
Yeah.
All right, well, if you're ready, I have to hear you. Are you ready for a story?
Yeah.
We're ready.
I don't know if I hear everybody. Are you ready?
We're ready.
We're
Yeah.
I can't think of right there. Okay. And I hope there are adults too, because stories are for adults too. So the first story, well, I have two stories for each tonight. And I love to read books, but these are two stories that are now in my head. So I'm going to tell them to you out of my head. But I did read them at one point. The first story is about Lazy Jack. This is a long time ago, and Jack Lazy Jack lived with his mother, and his mother, she made a little bit of money by spinning, by taking the wool and spinning it into yarn. She worked pretty hard, but Jack did nothing but lie in the sunshine all day and then move himself from there to the dinner table, and then from the dinner table to his bed. And his mother could not persuade him to go out and find some work and help support them. So one day she got so mad, she said, Jack, if you don't go out and get a job, I'm going to throw you out of the house and you'll have to make do on your own. And that was okay because he was, pretty grown up at that point. He wasn't little anymore. And so he did go out finally. He went out for the day and he hired himself out to a farmer for the day. And the farmer paid him a nice shiny penny for his work. That was a lot more than.
I hope so.
Right? So he was very pleased with his penny. This was the first money he had ever made all by himself. And so he was holding it in his hand and he walked back from the farmers and over the bridge and down the path towards his home. And when he got home, he wanted to show his mom. She said, what did you get? And he went to show her, but his hands were empty. He's like, oh no, I lost the penny. And his mom said, oh my goodness, I can't believe it. You should have put it in your pocket, Jack. So he said, that's true. Next time, that's what I'll do. So the next day, he hired himself out to a cow keeper. And at the end of the day, the cow keeper gave him a lovely jar full of fresh milk. So he was proud, and he poured that milk right into his pocket because he didn't want to lose it on the way home. But the milk just poured right through his pocket, and he was covered in milk, and there wasn't any, that he could really give to his mother. So he explained this when he got home, and she said, Jack, I can't believe it. You're an idiot. She said, a jar of milk? You should have carried it on your head. And he said, that's true, Mother. That's what I'll do next time. So the next day he hired himself out to another farmer. And at the end of the day, the farmer presented him with a lovely round cream cheese. So he took that lovely round cream cheese and he put it on his head and he started walking home, and he walked and walked, and he went over the bridge, but it was a very hot day and that cream cheese was very soft to begin with, and it just kept melting and drooping, and it was all in his hair. Oh, it was just a disgusting, smelly mess when he got home, and his mother said, what did you do? He's like, well, I carried the cheese home on my head. And she said, Jack, you're a twit. She says, you should have carried it in your hands. And he said, yes, this is true. That's what I'll do next time. And so the next day he hired himself out to a baker. And at the end of the day, all the baker had to give him was a tomcat. The tomcat wasn't particularly nice even, but he would, hunt mice and be helpful that way. So, he thought about what his mother had said, and he grabbed the tomcat in his hands and he tried to carry it home, and he was walking home, but it was scratching him all over, and finally he couldn't hold it anymore, and the tomcat ran away. And he came home and he was all scratched and bleeding a little bit, and his mother said, Jack, what have you done now? And he explained that he'd tried to carry the cat home in his hands, and she said, I can't believe it. You don't know nothing. And she said, you should have tied a string around it and then dragged it home. He said, that is right, Mother. I will do that next time. And so the next time he hired himself out to a butcher, and the butcher gave him a lovely shoulder of mutton, of sheep. And so he thought about what his mother had said, and he tied a string around it and he dragged it all the way home. of course, you know, every dog in the area was following him, and after dragging it home, it was like most of it got worn off on the way. And so that was no Sunday dinner for them, no lovely mutton for a Sunday dinner. His mother said, "Jack, I can't believe it. You should have carried it on your shoulder. You're a ninny nanner." And Jack said, "Yes, you're right. I should have carried it on my shoulder. Then we would still have it to eat for dinner. Next time, that's what I'll do. Absolutely." And so the next day, one more day of the week before Sunday, and he hired himself out to a cattle keeper. And at the end of the day, the cattle keeper gave him a donkey. This is a big gift. So, you know, he picked up that donkey. It was not easy, but he picked it up and he put it on his shoulder. And he started trying to walk home. And he walked, you know, down the road. And it was very difficult. And the donkey was kind of confused. And we didn't realize, but he was walking past the richest man in town's house. And inside the house of the richest man was his one and only daughter. And his one and only daughter could not speak and she could not hear until she would not be able to, it was said, until the spell was broken. And the spell could only be broken if she laughed. Well, she was looking out the window when she saw Jack walking by with a donkey on his shoulder. Oh my goodness, crazy donkey. And she just saw this and she just stood up. She just laughed and everybody in the house came running. They couldn't believe it. And she was cured and she could hear and she could speak. And the father was so grateful that, you know, he had promised anybody who could break that spell could marry his daughter. So Jack married his daughter and he lived in a mighty fine house and his mother lived there with him quite happily until the end of her days.
Wow.
Laughter is key.
Yeah, it's the old way.
You want to follow advice too closely sometimes. You got to think for yourself a little bit. Right?
Yeah. Well, it's so interesting. I was thinking of like all of the different ways of like the different ways we do things, and that everybody has a different kind of opinion on how to do something. And so sometimes you do just have to do it the way you know how, rather than do it the way someone tells you how to do it. But it's still always good to ask for advice and then make your decision.
That's true. And yeah, you don't always know the way things will turn out.
No, but I can't get the image of the cream cheese.
Yeah, I feel it. I feel it in my hair.
Yeah. We have a fellow commented and said Jack is having a good workout. Definitely. And hello to our friends out there. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks, everybody. Nice to have you out there.
Mm-hmm.
Are you guys ready for story number 2?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is like the first story that I learned many years ago. And I found it in a book in a library, and then I never ever saw that book again and never ever met anyone else who knew the story. But it's about cat and mouse. Well, you know cat and mouse because you know that cat and mouse are enemies today, right? But did you know that once upon a time they were best friends?
Oh, it starts off.
Okay.
They lived in 2 little matching houses right next to each other. And they always would go and have breakfast at one of their houses. And then they would go work in the fields. Then they would come back. They would have dinner at the other one's house. And then they would play games. And then they would say goodnight and go back to their own houses to sleep. except occasionally when they had sleepovers. So it was quite early in the morning one day, and they were still at their own houses. It wasn't quite breakfast time, and Cat heard a knock at his door. So he thought, who could that be? So he opened the door, and there he saw his great, 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 great grandpa Cat. He was very old.
I was gonna say he had a lot of lives.
He said, Grandpa, you know, come in. And his grandpa said, I just came here just for a minute because I have something to give you. And he handed Cat this special drum. And he said, this is a very special cat drum. It's been in our family as long as there have been cats. And it's been passed down from generation to generation. And now I am giving it to you. And the Cat took the drum and he was like, oh, wow, this is so special. This is very precious. I promise to take good care of it. And he said, you know, can I play it? And he went to play it and he went tap, 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 but it didn't quite sound right. And he went smack, 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 but it didn't really sound good. And his grandpa said, no, this is a very special drum. You have to carefully stroke it. And so he stroked it, and the drum made this amazing sound. Prum, prum, prum. And he said, wow, that is an amazing drum. He said, thank you so much, Grandpa. And his grandpa left. Right after his grandpa left, Mouse came running in and he said, what was that noise? What did I hear? And so Cat was excited and showed him the drum. And he said, this is a cat drum. It's been passed down from generation to generation in my family. And you know, Mouse thought it was pretty amazing too. And then he said, could I try it? And Cat looked a bit uncomfortable. He was like, you know, you are my very best friend in the whole world, but this is a cat drum, you know, and I can't really let you play it. It's very, very precious and part of the family. And a Mouse, you know, pretended that this was okay, that everything was cool, but it wasn't really. He was upset. So they sat down and started eating bowls of their oatmeal. But Mouse was trying to think of ways he could sneak in and play that drum. He's like, I am going to play that drum anyway. So he couldn't think of a plan though, so he kept eating oatmeal. 2 bowls, 3 bowls of oatmeal, 4 bowls of oatmeal, and then finally 5 bowls of oatmeal, and then all of a sudden he said, ow, ow, my tummy, it hurts, I have a tummy ache. And Cat said, well, I am not surprised. You ate so much oatmeal. And he said, why don't you go lie down in my bed? And when you feel better, you can come join me in the field. Mouse said, oh, okay, that's a good idea. And he went and he lay down in the bed. But as soon as Cat was gone out to the field, Mouse got out of the bed and he came and he took the cat drum and he went tap, 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 but it didn't make that sound. So he went smack, 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 but it still didn't make that sound. And just by accident, he stroked it and it went prum, prum. And he was so happy. He sang, prum, 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 I'm playing Cat's drum. He doesn't know, ho, ho, ho. But out in the field, Cat's ears perked up. He said, somebody is playing my cat drum. And he came running back in and he burst through the door. But by then, Mouse had put the drum back on the shelf and was back in bed, closing his eyes and pretending to be asleep. Cat said, wake up, Mouse, wake up. Somebody was in here playing my drum. Did you see who it was? And he said, No, I'm sorry, I was sleeping. He said, well, please try to stay awake because this is very important. He said, okay, I will. And Cat went back out to the field, and Mouse got out of bed again, and he went and got the drum from the shelf, and he sang, "Prum, prum, prum, I'm playing Cat's drum. He's so dumb. Prum, prum, prum." And Cat out in the field, he heard this, and he came running in as fast as he can, even faster than last time. And he was at the door, just about to open the door, and Mouse like threw the drum back on the shelf and ran into the bedroom, jumped into bed and like lay down and closed his eyes. And Cat came in and said, "Mouse, Mouse, you fell asleep again." He said, "Oh no, I did. He's like, "Someone was here again playing the drum." And Mouse was like, I'm sorry. I promise this time I'll stay awake." So Cat said, "All right." And he went out the door. And as soon as he was gone, Mouse got out of bed, went to the shelf, got the drum, and started to play. "Prum, prum, prum, I'm playing Cat's drum." But Cat was actually quite smart, and Cat did not go out into the field. Cat was hiding right outside the window, and he popped his head up, and he looked in, and he said, "Aha! It's you! You've been playing my cat drum all along." And he was furious. And he jumped into his house and he got Mouse in the corner. And Mouse didn't know what to do. All he could see was this big cat mouth. And so he took the drum and he shoved it into the mouth. And Cat, he swallowed the drum. And that's why this, even now today, if you go to a cat and you don't go tap 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 and you don't go smack smack smack, but if you stroke it, you'll hear the drum. Grum, grum, grum. And that's also why Cat and Mouse are no longer friends.
Ooh.
I went through so many emotions.
Yeah. All the emotions, right?
Yeah, that was so uncomfortable. But it's a great story, and I feel like it does explain the cat and mouse relationship, because trust was broken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And we can kind of understand different points. Like in the story, you can sort of see why Mouse would want to play the drum. They had shared everything.
Mm-hmm.
You can also understand that maybe Cat has something that isn't like right to share, or that he doesn't feel he can share, because maybe in a way it doesn't just belong to him.
Yeah.
We had that great responsibility to protect the drum that had been passed down from generation to generation. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah. Wow.
Yeah. I thought he was like, the cat was going to choke. I didn't say, I was like, oh my gosh, this got really violent.
Yeah, I don't know how you actually swallow a drum. I hope it was a very small drum,
Yeah. It was really big in my head, and then it kind of just shrank, this like magical moment where it's like, ooh, and then I don't have a cat, but I would love, there's something very like, oh, I would love to just cat right now.
I don't have a cat, but I have a dog, and she must have swallowed something, because she goes, woo.
That's awesome.
Well, thank you so much for sharing those two stories. Mm-hmm. It definitely was a treat. I feel that energy of, we're so used to watching movies or even reading books with pictures. And it's so nice. I haven't heard a story just being said in so long. So thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
it was fun, and I think you wanted me to just talk a little bit about reading books too.
I did. I thought it would be great because you're such a, you're somewhat of a local specialist on the subject. Um, so, as it goes with Family Literacy Week, a lot of things that people, I think the one thing that people imagine the most is reading a story with their children. So we thought that it would be nice to take this time with you to just explore any tips or strategies you have and thoughts about that you feel that would be most helpful to not only parents but caregivers and other members of the family that would be sharing that moment with other members of their family.
Yeah, absolutely. Since I have studied, education and also creative writing, and then I just loved the books and I read a lot of them to my daughter. And so yeah, when I'm sharing a book, and some of these things are the same when you're sharing a story too, without a book. Um, you have the sounds, like how does it sound? Like when I was telling the story, there were parts that I might have used a voice up high and a low voice for some other things, so you can express kind of some, almost like expressing more of the story, more of the emotion with the sounds. So that's something that you can play with when you're reading a book out loud. Don't be afraid to really try different voices, you don't, but just to the point that you're comfortable with, if it seems right, if suddenly you feel this voice, coming out of you, then go for it.
Yeah.
And there are the sounds, the sounds of unfamiliar words, the different speeds. Like at an exciting part, I could say things very quickly, and then they could go slowly. You can play with that. And then probably the one that people don't think about a lot is silence. Sometimes there's a part in a picture book where there's just, at the most interesting part of the story, sometimes there's a double page kind of spread with just pictures and no words. So don't rush through it. You're meant to just take your time and just kind of sit with that picture for a minute. And just sit at that moment in the story for a minute, and take it in. So I like slow reading, see how much time you can spend reading just one small book, with children.
Yeah, that's such a great point because you do tend to rush through it sometimes. Um, can I ask a question about the sounds?
Sure.
And this might be like totally impossible to answer, but one of my biggest struggles when I've been reading to my niece is like remembering the voice I use for a character.
Yeah.
Do you have like a strategy for that, or is it more like you just got to feel it out and play with it a bit
I would just
before?
listen to the kids. Like when they tell you that you're doing it wrong, just say, well, how is it supposed to go?
Right?
because they have the memory for it. Whatever, the more that you're wrong, the more confident they'll be, right?
Yeah.
True. It's very true.
And then I was gonna say too, if you have a book with pictures, you can spend time just like examining those pictures and noticing things about them, and even like the faces on characters, like talking about what their faces look like and how they might be feeling. And then you can go beyond the book too, you can say, you can make predictions, what do you think might happen? Or even a minor character, can you imagine what this minor character might have gone off to do after the story? Or before he got there. My daughter used to, have conversations with the characters. So you can allow your kids, or you can even model that, just like start talking to one of the characters,
That's an amazing idea. I love it because it gives, a whole new dimension to the story itself. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So there's no reason you can't just take one book and make it a bigger, a longer, a larger experience. And in that way, it is a lot different from a movie or a TV show or something.
Hmm. I
Yeah,
love the idea of going off script.
yeah,
You
you
know,
can.
like the book is there, it has kind of a parameter of it, but especially for those of us that aren't strong readers, it's like, go for it. What are the images telling you? What's the story there? And that there's like multiple universes
That's
sort of
right.
hidden in this one image, in this one page.
Yeah,
And I love the silence.
it's usually adults I find who are trying to rush their way through. Just like if you go
Hmm.
for a walk with little kids, the kids will take a lot of time to do things and look
Yeah.
at things.
Yeah.
It's the same with the book, you know, they're not usually the ones flipping the pages so quickly. And
Hmm.
except there's an exception, like when my daughter was like maybe a baby or a toddler, you know, I
Hmm.
started showing her how to turn pages and looking at books at a young age. But when she got the hang of turning the pages, that's all she wanted to focus on.
Yeah.
So I was trying to read the story and she was like,
No.
but, I'm like, and then
And then we're done. Okay. Again. Yeah.
and the
You
page
know,
turns create a kind of suspense, you know, so you can play with that.
Hmm.
Like the longer you wait to turn the page, right, the more suspense is created.
yeah.
Hmm.
I'm even thinking about the different, you know, because in every story and in every life experience, there's always so many variables at play if you're trying to understand something or why something happened. And that idea of going off script is a great way to explore empathy. I would
Mhm.
think, because you can then, you know, what do you think that character is witnessing? What do you think that they're feeling while they're seeing that? Or, you know, just exploring the different perspectives of what stories taking place in the book. That's such a great idea.
Yeah, you can see different points of view, you know, what
Yeah.
this, you know, the point of view is from this character, like, yeah.
Yeah. And you know, the other thing I'm thinking about is one thing that I found myself doing, um, you know, now that I've been exploring literacy like in a whole new way,
Mhm.
over the last couple of years, and um, reading the book on my own without the child around me, like reading children's books,
Yeah.
is such a nice, relaxing activity. You know, often you feel like if you want to stop to read, or if you want to read a book, you have to read a novel or you have to read, you know, the newspaper, which is always good to
Mhm.
do. But there was something that became so simple to just stop and read a child's book that was just lying around. It took away the pressure, and then at the same time, it really was a nice break from the burdens of adulthood.
I
So
like that.
I recommend that to everyone, because it was something I hadn't imagined or anticipated by having um, you know, a child in the home.
Mhm.
Hmm.
It's yeah, it's a great thing. Like I say, I often share picture books, you know, which people say they're intended for young children, you know, but there are picture books for older readers, definitely. And I'm always sharing them with adults, whether they're like in a class where people are learning a second language, or, I mean, anytime I share them, people are so happy.
Hmm.
And there's so much wisdom in them too, and they're art objects. They have the most amazing art in them, and life advice, really.
Yes, well,
Hmm.
that's it. That was one of the things, like when I would read them and I was just like, wow, like this is so good to go back to revisit,
Mhm.
um those, like how our, you know, values taught, you know, it's a great way to do it.
Hmm.
Do you have any other thoughts on your mind that you want to share, that are maybe some strategies around helping develop literacy skills in the home place?
Um, well, I kind of always liked using the strategy of sort of making some mistakes on purpose, you know. Or actually, sometimes if my daughter had heard the story many times, I would just leave out a word and let her fill it in.
Yep.
You might say, this is memorizing, it's not reading, but actually reading is so much about guessing. And so if we start by reading a story that we're familiar with, then it's going to make the task of reading much easier. And then the more you do it, the easier it becomes still.
Like that.
That is such a good piece of advice. So if you're with because I'm thinking of some of the adults we work with, they're always afraid that they're just memorizing and they're not, they're not actually reading the word. And it's so true. It is like, it's like when we work to, build people's self-esteem, they need to trust themselves. So it's like, work with what and we'll break it down for sure. But it's always good to yeah, like you say, build that
Absolutely.
let them know they're right.
You don't have to be perfect, reading a picture book, or you might come across words you don't know, and that's fine, right? Because you can show the kids that they might come across words they don't know, and if you feel adventurous, you can like type them in the computer and look them up. Or you could also, like, instead of leaving a blank space, you could actually put a wrong word in, a word that's very obviously wrong. And then the listeners will be like, no.
Yeah.
You can do a bad job of reading it, and then the kids will pretty soon want to take over.
I'm also I'm thinking too of the words, like sometimes when I'm reading with my niece, she's really good at asking, what does that word mean? What does this word mean? And so like talking to you guys, I'm remembering that like I kind of mirrored that behavior if it was a word that I knew she did know. So that, so you're like, oh, do you know what this word means? And I can't remember, and so helping them kind of to like develop that awareness while they're reading too.
And I just want to say, a last thing, like sometimes we think as parents that we have to be able to do everything well, but now that my daughter's a bit older, I realize it's a gift to our kids when we're not good at something. It leaves them some space to like be the one who becomes good at that thing.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I love it. Is that where we should is that the note we should close on?
Yeah. So try to fail as a parent so that your kids can succeed.
Yeah.
You have permission.
Put it that way, but it really is, I think, this idea, and it goes back to this idea that we're learning together. Family literacy is about learning together and knowing, and I've always felt like that is the framework that we take here at Literacy in Action. We want, we're all experimental learners. We're all lifelong learners. And the idea is to share, like some people know much more about one subject than someone else does. And so it's that idea of creating the space to ask questions, to be curious, and to build understanding through each other. And I feel like that idea of failure is really this, it's actually, that's where the growth happens.
Yeah. Well, and that exploration, I think it's awesome that we started with telling stories orally. That's one way to do story time. With a book is one way to do story time, especially if you're talking it out, you can get more physical with it too. We've got little kiddos, they got a lot of energy, and you can kind of work that out. And so sort of reminding yourself too that you can play with that as an adult. Like I'm learning about this too, and to have fun with that. And even if you do fail, like you're role modeling how to try something new.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's so important.
what could be better than role modeling how to handle a fail too?
Yeah. Keep it cool.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
reflect on what, like when you think about that first story about Jack, and you know,
That's true.
like
Many fails.
many fails, and you know, that idea of just keep trying, like just keep trying, and then you'll figure out your way, and it will work in your favor, because it's what you were born to do. So on that note, is there anything either one of you want to share before we wrap it up?
No, that's great.
No.
I brought my puppy.
Aww. That's great. I'm actually working on a picture book story my daughter inspired me with.
Yay.
A lone sock.
Amazing. That's perfect.
Entertainment for hours.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, so it's been an incredible week, everyone. I do want to say that I'm very thankful for your time tonight, Heather and Yo. It's been fun to cozy up a little bit. And we hope the people out there enjoyed this week with us. We've had we've learned a whole lot this week. So thank you for everybody who participated, and keep in touch, spread the word. And I should mention that we do have a couple of workshop series starting up in February. So if you or someone you know just got a new gadget, or like a computer or a tablet or a new phone, we will be starting workshops. So you can look at the notices on our Facebook page to get more details or to contact us. If you have never opened your computer yet and you're watching this on a phone, or you know somebody who just got something from the holidays, it really is the basics. It came from a high demand of people contacting us about how to use their technology. So please sign up.
And yeah, I would just add to that, Joanna, just because they're on Zoom, but if you're not comfortable with Zoom, we'll be coaching on how to get to that point as well. So
yes.
There's assistance there. So that's an exciting part about it too.
Thank you, Yo, for clarifying that. That is exactly what we hope for. And if you are somebody who's planning, if you are a parent who is, or an adult, we all have to file our taxes. So yes. So the CRA will be joining us as of February 9th. Again, you can follow our Facebook page to get more details. It's advertised in our February photo album. So you can sign up, and we will go through the steps of filing taxes. I know this sounds like nothing related to what we've talked about tonight, but just want to use the opportunity to spread the word. And yeah, it's like hard to wrap it up because it's been so nice. But we wish everybody a great weekend. It's -16 out here, so we're really glad we could do this from home. And this is Literacy in Action's Reading Nook. So when we open up again one day, folks are welcome to come. Yeah.
Excellent.
Anything else?
Thank you. Have a great night, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Heather. And we'll see you soon.
Yeah.
All right.
Excellent.
One thing I haven't figured out is how to sign out of these properly. So, okay. All right. Cheers, guys.
Bye.
Peace.